Lust is not your problem. That might sound strange, especially if you've been fighting it for years, but lust is not the root issue. It's a symptom, a signal, a substitute. Most people think lust is about sex. It isn't. Lust is about what happens when desire loses connection to love, meaning, and responsibility. When desire gets cut off from relationship, it turns inward. It becomes consumption instead of connection. And once that happens, it doesn't elevate you. It drains you. Here's where people go wrong from the very beginning. They externalize the problem. They blame women. They blame culture. They blame the internet. They blame how people dress, how easy access is, how impossible it is to avoid temptation. That response is as old as humanity itself. It's the same voice that said, "The woman you gave me, she made me do it." But responsibility is not optional if you want freedom. You don't confess other people's sins. You confess your own. And when you say, "It's their fault, look how they dress," you're not confessing, you're deflecting. Here's a simple question that exposes the truth. If your mother, your sister, or your daughter were dressed the same way, would it evoke lust? For most people, the answer is no. Why? Because love already exists there. Love changes perception. Love humanizes. Love protects. Which means lust isn't caused by the body in front of you. It's caused by the absence of love inside you in that moment. Lust reduces a human being, someone made with depth, history, dignity, into an object for emotional or physical relief. And that's why it feels hollow afterward, because something inside you knows you violated your own standards. Now let's be honest about something uncomfortable. For most men, lust is not driven by overwhelming sexual power. It's driven by weak emotional regulation. Pornography, fantasy, compulsive sexual behavior. These are not primarily about desire for women. They're about escape. Escape from anxiety, stress, insecurity, loneliness, shame, a sense of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being insignificant. Lust becomes a coping mechanism. In real life, a man might feel invisible, inadequate, unsure of himself. But in fantasy, he is desired without effort, wanted without risk, accepted without exposure. And for a moment the tension disappears, but it always comes back. Because the crash after lust isn't random, it's biological and psychological. Dopamine spikes, then drops. Fantasy dissolves, reality returns, and what floods in is not pleasure, it's humiliation. Not because someone judged you, but because you judged yourself. Your nervous system knows the truth. This wasn't strength, it was avoidance. That's why lust doesn't build confidence, it erodes it. And here's a crucial point most people never hear. You are not going to solve lust once and for all. This is not a battle you win and walk away from forever. Desire doesn't disappear. Attraction doesn't disappear. Beauty doesn't disappear. What changes is your relationship to desire. Think of it like hunger. If you eat sugar constantly, you crave sugar constantly. If you stop feeding it, the craving weakens. It doesn't vanish, but it loses authority. Lust works the same way. If you voluntarily expose yourself to sources that inflame it, images, fantasy, endless stimulation, you don't become strong, you become enslaved. And here's the brutal truth. If you do not voluntarily withdraw from sources of temptation, you will involuntarily become a slave to them. Temptation has two stages, the outer encounter and the inner engagement. You cannot always control the first, you can always control the second. The moment you entertain fantasy, the moment you linger, the moment you take pleasure in the image, you've allowed temptation to cross the threshold, and once it's inside, resistance becomes exponentially harder. This is why willpower alone fails. Freedom does not begin with white-knuckling. It begins with cutting supply, not out of fear, out of respect for yourself. Now let's talk about something most people misunderstand. The goal is not to become less tempted. The goal is to become stronger and more disciplined in response. Fear works the same way. Lust works the same way. When people face fear correctly, they don't suddenly feel calm. They become braver. The world doesn't get safer, they get more capable. Lust doesn't disappear because the world becomes modest. It weakens because you become more grounded. There is a massive difference between stress imposed on you and stress you choose. When temptation overwhelms you unexpectedly, your body enters defense mode. When you choose discipline, fasting, restraint, structure, your body enters challenge mode. Challenge mode builds strength. Defense mode drains you. That's why avoidance never works. Avoidance teaches your nervous system, this controls me. Voluntary discipline teaches it, I am in charge. And here's where many men get stuck. They feel ashamed for struggling. They think, something is wrong with me. No, this struggle is ancient. Saints struggled with it. Strong men struggled with it. Disciplined men struggled with it. The difference is not whether temptation appears. The difference is whether you stand up and fight with intensity. And intensity matters. Men who are passive, casual, or go with the flow about lust get destroyed by it. Not because they're worse men, but because they are not engaged. This is not a fight you win half asleep. You don't drift into freedom. You move toward it deliberately. That doesn't mean perfection. It means direction. Even if you fall, you get up with clarity. Tomorrow, I fight again. Not with self-hatred, with resolve. Because the opposite of lust is not repression. The opposite of lust is love with discipline. And love is not sentimental. Love is structured. Love has boundaries. Love requires sacrifice. One of the most dangerous things about lust is secrecy. Not because secrecy is immoral in itself, but because secrecy removes friction. And when there is no friction, behavior accelerates. That's true for addiction, fear, anxiety, and lust alike. When no one knows, the nervous system feels unobserved, and unobserved systems default to habit. This is why accountability is not optional. It is not a nice extra. It is not for weak people. It is a structural necessity. Accountability doesn't mean public shame. It means voluntary exposure. When you voluntarily expose your struggle to another human being, someone you respect, something changes immediately. The behavior no longer lives only in fantasy. It now exists in reality, and reality has consequences. Here's something many men don't realize. Shame grows in silence. Discipline grows in visibility. This is why people who struggle alone struggle longer. Even a simple rule like this can be transformative. If I'm about to fall, I tell someone. If I fall, I tell someone. Not to be punished, not to be humiliated, but to break the illusion that this behavior has no weight. When you know you will have to speak about your choices tomorrow, tonight feels different. The temptation doesn't magically disappear, but it loses speed. Speed is the enemy of control. Now let's address another uncomfortable truth. Many people approach this struggle with a passive mindset. They hope motivation will appear. They hope desire will weaken. They hope discipline will somehow arrive. That hope is misplaced. You do not defeat lust by being gentle with it. You defeat it by being clear and firm. That doesn't mean self-hatred. It means self-respect. There has to be a point where you say internally, this behavior does not define me, and it does not get to control me. That statement needs emotion behind it, not guilt, not despair, but anger directed properly. Anger, when aimed inward destructively, ruins people. Anger, when aimed at what keeps you weak, mobilizes you. Every meaningful change begins with a refusal. Refusal to remain childish, refusal to escape responsibility, refusal to trade short-term relief for long-term erosion. Here's a truth that cuts through a lot of confusion. Lust keeps you immature. Not because desire is immature, desire is natural, but because using fantasy as emotional anesthesia keeps you from developing real strength. Real strength comes from learning how to tolerate discomfort without escaping it. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. And discipline is not intensity once. Discipline is consistency over time. This is where people misunderstand perfection. Perfection does not mean, I will never be tempted. Perfection means, today, I do not feed it. 24 hours at a time. You don't win a lifetime in one decision. You win it in daily decisions that stack quietly. Now let's talk about vigilance. Most people fall not because temptation is strong, but because awareness is weak. They drift. They scroll. They linger. they negotiate. And lust loves negotiation. The moment you argue with temptation, you've already given it too much space. Strength doesn't look like wrestling with fantasy. Strength looks like cutting it off early. A glance doesn't need to become a stare. A thought doesn't need to become a story. A feeling doesn't need to become an action. The earlier you interrupt the cycle, the easier it is. That's not repression, that's intelligence. Think about it this way. You don't let a small fire grow just to prove you can put it out later. You extinguish it immediately. Another mistake people make is underestimating how physical this battle is. Lust doesn't live only in thoughts. It lives in the body. Fatigue, hunger, isolation, boredom. These lower resistance. Structure, movement, routine, purpose. These strengthen it. This is why prayer, meditation, or reflection alone is not enough if your life lacks structure. Discipline is embodied. You cannot live chaotically and expect restraint to appear magically in moments of weakness. Order in small things creates strength in big ones. Sleep, nutrition, movement, work, silence. These are not side issues, they are foundations. And here's something crucial. You cannot remove lust without replacing it with something higher. Empty space always gets filled. If you remove stimulation but add no meaning, your system will search for relief elsewhere. Love is the replacement, but love requires action. Love means learning to see people as whole. Love means building something meaningful with your life. Love means responsibility. Love means sacrifice. This is why men who have purpose struggle less, not because they are purer, but because their energy has direction. Lust thrives in emptiness. Purpose starves it. And when you do fall, because setbacks happen, the response matters more than the fall itself. Most damage happens after the mistake. Self-loathing, binge behavior, hopeless thinking. Why even try? That spiral is optional. A fall does not erase discipline. It reveals where discipline needs reinforcement. You don't double down on shame. You double down on structure. You reset. You confess. You re-engage immediately. Delay is how cycles deepen. There is no freedom in pretending you're fine. Freedom begins the moment you face reality without distortion. And here's something people rarely talk about. Lust weakens not when you feel good, but when you feel capable. Capability comes from keeping promises to yourself. Each time you resist, even briefly, you prove something. I can withstand discomfort. That proof accumulates. Eventually, lust loses authority. Not because it vanished, but because you no longer obey it automatically. This is the shift. You stop being controlled by impulse. You start choosing response. And that choice restores dignity. Not the fake confidence of fantasy, but the quiet confidence of someone who knows how they behave under pressure. There's something important you need to understand if you want this struggle to actually change you instead of exhaust you. Lust does not disappear because you beat it. It loses power because you outgrow the version of yourself that needed it. That distinction matters. If your only goal is suppression, you will live tense. If your goal is transformation, restraint becomes lighter over time. Lust thrives where meaning is thin. Love grows where meaning is cultivated. This is why the deepest solution is not avoidance alone, but reorientation. You are not trying to erase desire. You are training desire to serve something higher. Love does that naturally. Love makes you patient. Love slows you down. Love restores proportion. When you genuinely love someone, you do not reduce them. You do not consume them. You do not turn them into a tool for your relief. Lust is fast. Love is slow. Lust wants access. Love wants responsibility. This is why the presence of love changes perception. The same body, the same appearance, the same stimulus, yet the internal response is completely different. That tells you something critical. The problem was never what you saw. The problem was how you learn to see, and how you see is shaped by habit. When you repeatedly consume people as images, your perception narrows. When you practice seeing people as full human beings, perception expands. This is learned behavior, which means it can be unlearned. But unlearning takes patience. You will not suddenly feel pure. You will feel more grounded. You will notice fewer compulsive urges. You will recover faster when temptation appears. You will think less in extremes. That is progress. Another misconception that needs to be dismantled is the idea that freedom feels dramatic. It doesn't. Freedom feels quiet. Freedom feels stable. Freedom feels like not needing escape. When people imagine overcoming lust, they imagine a moment of triumph. In reality, it looks like ordinary days where temptation shows up and you simply don't feed it. No fireworks, no applause, just consistency. And consistency builds identity. Identity is not what you claim, it's what your behavior proves over time. This is why small disciplines matter so much. Getting up when you said you would, ending the day without indulgence, choosing restraint when no one is watching. These moments are invisible, but they shape who you become, and who you become determines what you tolerate. Eventually, something shifts. You stop asking, "Can I resist this?" You start asking, "Why would I trade my clarity for that?" That's when lust loses leverage, not because you're stronger in willpower, but because your values are clearer. Now let's talk about relapse, honestly. Relapse does not mean you are back at the beginning. It means you encountered a stress point that exceeded your current structure. That's information. The mistake is interpreting relapse as identity. It's not. It's feedback. What was missing? Sleep, connection, accountability, purpose, routine, meaning. Address the cause, not just the behavior. And do not dramatize the setback. Drama feeds the cycle. Calm correction breaks it. There is no shame in struggling. There is danger in surrendering. And surrender often comes disguised as resignation. I'll always be like this. It's just who I am. I've tried before. Those statements are not truth. They are fatigue talking. Fatigue is solved by structure, not despair. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is this: you are not broken. You are untrained. And training works. Just like fear, lust responds to exposure, repetition, and choice. The more you practice choosing love, responsibility, and restraint, the less appealing fantasy becomes. Fantasy collapses when reality becomes meaningful, and meaning is built, not found. Here's the quiet reward of this path. When lust no longer dominates you, your attention returns, your energy returns, your confidence becomes calm instead of inflated, your relationships deepen, your self-respect stabilizes, you stop fragmenting yourself, and that wholeness changes how you move through the world. You speak more directly, you look people in the eye, you carry less internal conflict, not because you are perfect, but because you are aligned. Alignment is peace, and peace is far more powerful than pleasure. This is not a battle you win once, it's a practice you maintain, and every day the same choice returns: impulse or intention, escape or responsibility, consumption or connection. You do not need to eliminate desire, you need to govern it. That is maturity, that is strength, that is freedom, and it is built quietly, daily, deliberately. The choice is yours.